And good evening and welcome to McDonald's Stadium here in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm Mario O'Brien here with special guest and former Boston Ironside player Ryan Purcell for our matchup between Boston's Ironside and the NextGen All-Stars coming off their victory against Pony last night. NextGen now 3-2 on the tour. Ryan, Ironside's preparing for another season. They've got the U.S. Open this weekend. I know you've been spending the last couple of days with them. What's their mentality coming into this game and their season?
Mario, I think they're all pretty excited for this matchup. They've had a couple of losses to the NextGen team over the last couple of years, and they're excited for a bit of revenge. But at the same time, Boston is a team with their sights on higher and bigger things at the end of the season. So this is early days. I think they're out here to have some fun, but also to win the game.
So Ironside will pull. You're looking at Will Neff.
Ironside sporting some new pirate-themed jerseys. The guys were pretty excited about that this week. This is the inaugural game that they've had them.
Inaugural game for Will Neff and that hairstyle, I think, as well.
Yes, apparently he lost a bet with one of his students, so that was the punishment. And pull out of bounds.
So Will Neff not getting Ironside off on the right foot. NextGen coming out in what looks to be a vert stack. This will be Montague with the disc. We've seen that most of the tour. Most of the time you're going to see Eli Kern center to Montague off the pull. We see a flood play to start, looking for Janin to break, and Janin receives it on the break side. Another break to Mickle. Mickle to Kearns. Scion on the open side, marked by Malachek. Hahn underneath. Hahn marked by Wallach, swings to Kearns. Kearns around to Allison Hall. NextGen doing a great job using both sides of the field, swinging.
Really using the width of this field. It's one thing I'm curious to watch this game as half of this Ironside team plays on a much wider MLU field, how they'll be able to utilize the space.
Allison Hall now. Looking for Montague. Montague just outside his end zone. He's got a wide open Kearns and a clean sheet for the Bus on their first point. Very patient, working the width of the field, and it was that handler offense that really got it going for him.
Sometimes it doesn't need to be the complicated stuff, Mario. Just use the space that's available to you, open up the defense with those swings, and then you have a wide open shot for the goal.
This NextGen team has been one that has relied less on the deep ball than the NextGen teams of the past, and it's points like that we've seen recently from the Bus that actually opens up the deep game. I think in the past that all their opponents knew that they were really shooting for those big goals, and this year it's been more of that short, quick handling movement that's opened up the deep game. The Bus doing a great job of picking their shots in these last two games, and that time I think they were just working it underneath with those handlers to maybe open some things up later.
Definitely. We have a little bit of breeze tonight, but not enough to affect any throws under, say, 20 yards. But if you put up the deep bomb, it may cause a little havoc because we do have the Boston Metro system about 50 meters off the field.
This is Rebholz, horizontal stack to start. A little bit of traffic in the middle of the field, nothing available. Now Stubbs. Stubbs looking to go to that forehand, but Driscoll and Pryle are deep, and Pryle's not going to be able to reel this one in. Stubbs going immediately to that forehand flick that he loves to throw. This time misses the mark. Wind, if you're wondering, is blowing into the camera from the thrower standpoint for Stubbs. That was blowing from his right to his left.
Looked like a bit of a mystery. That was exactly the throw I was talking about. If you put it up in the wind, it'll do some things to it.
Kocher. Kocher looking to dump to Freechild, marked by Stubbs. Freechild throwing and going. Kocher bounces one up the line, and
that's a big D.
And
from
George Stubbs comes up with a big one to get that one back.
Earning back the D. George Stubbs, Team USA captain, headed down to Columbia in a few weeks, doing what team leaders do.
So Stubbs with the block. Marquette picks up and flips it for the Ironside goal. So the Ironside offense holds on the great block by George Stubbs. Kocher trying to find Freechild up the line, just hung it out there a little too long, and Stubbs was equal to the task.
I just noticed that Danny Clark has switched out of his game jersey and put on a Ironside red. It'll be curious to watch that. I know he's always keeping tabs on his legs because he has been injury prone in the past. But I've heard that this season he's been much healthier. With the tournament ahead, maybe they're holding him out for a half.
So Ironside will pull. That's Malachek, also known as Muffin, with the disc. Muffin, quite the storied player here in the Ultimate Worlds. If you follow the Ultimate media, you've seen his name showing up recently. Muffin published an article on his blog that was a bit critical of the MLU's Innova Pulsar, which is the disc they use, and some discussion online certainly followed, and the Major League Ultimate actually issued a one-game ban for his comments online. Camden Ellison Hall with the disc on the sideline, looking to reset to Kearns. Kearns beats his man up line easily. Kearns, nice IO break to Scion at the top of the stack. Mickle finds some space, and Mickle's going to find Janin in the back corner of the end zone. Another NextGen hold. 2 turnoverless points so far from the bus for offense.
Just reading the body language, it looks like NextGen is pretty pleased with their start, and Ironside is feeling like they have a bit to prove.
That point, NextGen very effective using the top of their stack to release some of that pressure. We saw Kearns beat his man up line, couldn't find Montague, but immediately looked to the front of that stack, and Scion was ready to catch that nice IO from Kearns. And then immediately after that, Jimmy Mickle faked his man out, went the other way, and that's what led to that open side throw from Janin.
Looks like the NextGen D-line is going to be matching up in man against this experienced Boston O-line. They've been playing together for a few years. It'll be interesting to watch throughout this game and the season ahead if this O-line is able to lead the team to their goals.
This O-line, it's Alex Cooper receiving, centering to Rebholz. Usually you're going to see Peter Pryl or Stubbs coming out first. This time it's Josh Marquette, also known as Cricket. Cricket marked by Trent Dillon.
Going to enjoy watching that matchup tonight.
Stubbs. Stubbs, backhand break to Rebholz. Stubbs gets it back. Marked by Freechild. Cooper, back to Stubbs. Stubbs finds a new member of that O-line. That's Alex Capinos. And Josh Marquette toes the line from Capinas. Nice job there by the Ironside offense, showing the small ball look themselves.
Good composure. Took all the easy throws that were there in front of him. Simple O point. Mario, do you expect this being the second game and 2 nights for the NextGen team? Do you expect it to affect them? How are they feeling on the bus?
These guys get up for big games. They've had they targeted this game. I think they would have loved to roll Pony a little bit easier, but I don't expect legs to be a problem. These guys, most of them go through their whole college career, then they jump right into club. They're used to playing tournaments. They're used to playing an entire day's worth of games, and these are the guys that are playing all the points for their teams. They're the best players on their teams. They're the best players in the nation. And I don't expect fatigue to be an issue more than other games. At times, the bus has looked tired simply because they only have 15 guys on the roster, if anything. Nice
Definitely.
flood play to start here to Mickle.
Notice that Will Neff went for the outside in pull as opposed to inside out, which resulted in bounds.
Montague going up top. Allison Hall gets his hand on it. And the disc trickles down to the ground. Looks like some contact as we were going up. Malachek was there. Scion was there for NextGen. We're going to take a look at this one. Montague going with the floaty IO backhand.
4 people making a play on the disc. Looks like they both went up, got a finger on it, but nobody was able to come down with it. What do you think, Mario?
Tough to say. I don't think there was any contact going up. Allison Hall might have felt some contact when he had his hand on the disc. I think that might be what he's calling, but the observers going to rule no foul. I think that's a good call here.
I agree. That was Seth, a.k.a. the big baby Reinhardt with the D. He does play physical D. Looked like a good play.
So Malachek picks up. Malachek immediately going deep to Neff, and that's his M.O. Malachek always going to be picking up on the turn.
First break of the game comes from Ironside. Big huck from Muffin to Will Neff, who made a great read. Flipped it in for the easy goal.
And that might be the type of disadvantage that a team like NextGen has playing against Ironside. If you're a club team and you're playing against Ironside, you know that if Muffin picks up the disc, you got to go straight up a bit on that mark to take away that exact look. And basically off of that first look, Ironside's always going to be looking to send someone deep just to give Muffin a look at that big forehand that he's known for.
Ironside D-line really likes to set up Will Neff in space after a turn. You almost have to pick your poison with him. He'll come under for 20-yard gainer and then be able to throw it deep, but if you leave him open, we saw what happened. Looks like Ironside has rotated in 3 or 4 new defenders on this. See if they can get 2 breaks back-to-back. I'm interested to see if Muffin chooses to change his pull approach. He went inside out. He's doing it again. This one looks a little flatter.
Scion receives the pull, centers to Montague. The bus going flat stack, flooding a couple cutters deep, finds Janin underneath. Now to Scion. Couple cuts by Janin, gets it back. Now finds Neal. Neal normally on the D-line. And he's going to send this one deep. He's got Eli Kearns back there. Eli Kearns known more for his handling skills, but this time gets open, and a beautiful throw by Aaron Neal.
I'm guessing that isn't NextGen's typical offense.
It's not their typical offensive set for Neal to be throwing deep to Kearns. Those guys haven't played a lot of points together, but a beautiful throw here from Neal has NextGen tied up 3-3, and the Bus will be trying to get their first break of the game. Aaron Neal all the way from New Zealand. Of course, last year we had the German Philipp Haas. This year, Neal representing the international community.
I actually played against Aaron Neal at last year's World Championships in Japan. I played on the South African team. We met them in a heavily upwind, downwind game, and he skied me multiple times. Not ashamed to admit it.
Taking a look at that NextGen D-line, that's Freechild in front of your screen. Jay Clark about to pull Driscoll in the background. And Trent Dillon running down, probably to mark up against Cricket again. Ironside sets to Rebholz. Rebholz, bit of a miscommunication with Peter Pryl, and NextGen's going the other way. Driscoll with the disc on the doorstep. Resets to Kocher. Kocher throwing and going with Driscoll. Now finds Freechild. Freechild so dangerous near the end zone with all his release points. Loves to throw and go. Jay Clark. Jay Clark been throwing a lot of scoobers on the tour this year, and it looks like Tim Morrissey's going to drop this one.
He got a hand on it, but couldn't come down with it.
Morrissey is going to be not pleased with himself after that one. He knows this should have been a goal. Tough throw, tough catch, but you got to make that play.
Yeah, it is tough to catch those when they're helixing like that. I don't think coach would be pleased with that decision near the end zone, but let's see what the D-line can do. Get it back. Ooh, big bid from Freechild.
Freechild bidding past Stubbs, and unfortunately out throws Marquette. So Stubbs' second hook turnover is going to give the bus a chance for a break. Elliot Erickson with the disc. Stubbs in hot pursuit. Now Dillon in the backfield. That Stubbs-Freechild matchup is going to be key for both teams going both ways here on the O points for Ironside.
Big layout bid by Peter Pryl. Just missed that D.
And Erickson hangs one up. Freechild attempts the greatest, saves it, but it doesn't stay in bounds.
A near double greatest opportunity. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
So the pressure by Stubbs definitely having an effect on Freechild. Already got a hold of one block, and you could see Erickson maybe should have pumped that one instead of throwing it.
Yeah, he overcooked the swing a little bit. Matt Rebholz picking up the disc.
Rebholz looking to swing. Kapinas. Stubbs on the doorstep, flips the backhand to Pryl, and NextGen can't get the break despite two opportunities. Freechild not happy with himself there.
I think he's upset more about that D in the end zone. He knew it was coming, and Stubbs flipped it past his ear. Let's take a look at that again. The hand came up just a half second too late.
So George Stubbs throwing that goal, also going to be, as you said, Ryan, representing the United States as captain of the U.S. national team. And Stubbs, really a unique player, has skills all over the field. Has a bit of an MO to maybe get a bit trigger happy with that forehand, but there is no denying his athleticism. And certainly if you've ever had a chance to talk to George or work with him or play with him, you know he is a great teammate, loves the aspect of being on a team, and especially being on Ultimate Teams, and just a great leader.
I'm worried that if I start gushing about George, I won't stop, because I really did enjoy playing with him on one season. I think quite highly of him both as a player and a person. I'd be proud to call him my captain.
So Montague, another flood play. Second time we've seen that one used effectively. And this time Mickle, a little miscommunication with Hahn, is going to lead to Ironside's second attempt at a break.
Looks like everybody's pretty amped up out there. A few miscommunication turnovers.
Wallach breaks up field. That's Piers McNaughton with the disc. McNaughton going to be marked by Jacob Janin. He's got Will Neff isolated downfield against Jimmy Mickle. Will Neff comes back to the disc, now looking to swing. Nice mark by Mickle to take it away. Inside out to Simmons. Simmons back to Neff, and that time he was maybe focusing a bit on his footwork. And now Montague picks up. He's got Allison Hall streaking deep. Nice job by the defenders for Ironside, getting in the lanes in front of Montague to prevent that hook.
He definitely wanted the look, but may have hit somebody in the back.
Now
he pulled
Neal
the trigger.
Breaks to Janin. Hahn, Montague. Another pump fake. Scion. Great patience so far from NextGen.
Fantastic high release forehand to the break side.
Janin's going to float this one up. Scion had position, no chance despite the bidding defender. And the NextGen offense holds to make it 4-4.
I was pretty impressed with Simon Montague on that point. He's known for being a big thrower, but he looked off two opportunities for the huck, and that patience paid dividends with the goal.
And Simon Montague's taken on a bit of a different role here for this NextGen team. Bit of a change from the last time he was on the team. So he just graduated from Carleton. He was actually elected as one of the 3 captains of the NextGen team, along with Jimmy Mickle and Jacob Janin. And I think when you take on that captain's role, it changes your decision-making just a bit. You know that you have to be a bit more accountable in terms of your decisions. Montague has actually been most effective for NextGen this tour just breaking the mark and distributing and facilitating. And I think that he's making the right decisions not to put those up. He's seen the wind take a couple of these hooks. And nice job by Montague just facilitating the offense.
Absolutely. He didn't get the assist there, but he did throw that beautiful high-release break throw that set up the goal.
So Ironside out on offense, and we see the third huck attempt from Stubbs. This one's going to be completed. And Pryle gets the goal. We're going to take a look at this nice completion here from Stubbs. This time, well, the saying goes 2 out of 3 ain't bad, but for George Stubbs, he's gonna settle for 1 out of 3 so far today.
He'll keep pulling the trigger. He's not afraid of it.
And the shots he's been taking, you know, they are to receivers that he trusts, receivers that he's played with for a long time.
One thing that I've noticed on a few of those deep shots is that Ironside's gotten very easy goals after catching it on the doorstep. And part of that reason is it looks like NextGen's having a hard time trailing and picking up with those matchups. That's often something that comes with a bit more experience. Some of these NextGen guys probably aren't used to getting beat deep. They're not sure what to do when it happens.
And also a nice job by Ironside when they catch that hook, not calling a timeout. A lot of times I see college teams, and I see them calling what I call the college timeout. They catch a hook deep on the doorstep and immediately call timeout. And really, offensively, you are in a great situation. You're isolated one-on-one, and with a streaking offensive player, most likely you're going to be able to reset the disc easily.
Absolutely. When I'm coaching young guys, I tell them, pad your stats by following those huck plays, and you're going to be wide open.
So here the bus coming out in a spread. This is Scion with the disc. Allison Hall, Kearns.
Looks like a bit of a flatter mark coming from Ironside this point. It's kind of struggling to figure it out.
And this time, Mickle breaks that flat mark. Nice shimmy to forehand flick. Now Kearns just outside his end zone. Looks off a streaking Jannon. Couple cutters in the backfield. Kearns is going to put it nicely upfield to Mickle. Eli Kearns having a great start here today, doing it with his cuts earlier from Neal, and this time coming and getting a hold of that disc and finding Mickle. Just a nice reaching forehand huck from Mickle to the wide open Allison Hall, and now Mickle pads his stats and takes the goal home.
Very nice point by Jimmy Mickle. I was impressed with that throw from Kearns. He looked up, saw the space, saw that the poach wasn't there, and just floated it out nicely in front of his teammate.
And that's a really tough throw. Leading your receiver, knowing that there was actually another defender in the back of the end zone, a little bit of wind, and that touch forehand is really one of the more difficult throws that you can throw in Ultimate. The backhand, you've got a little more touch because you can maybe air bounce it a little bit, but nice job by Kearns to just lead Mickle and put a nice touch on it so he can run onto it.
And Jimmy's a big guy. Nobody's going to be bidding around him to get a D. So you put it out front, he's going to get there.
Cooper brings it down to Rebholz for the Ironside offense. Hirschberger. Looks off Stubbs underneath. Now this time Freechild marking up against Stubbs on this O-line.
Ironside's offense struggling to find space. They look a little disjointed at this point. See if they get that ironed out.
Let's see a deep shot. That's a streaking Cricket. And he comes up with this one despite a trailing Driscoll. And a wide open Alex Capinos is going to take this one. Great bid by Cricket to reel it in.
Fantastic grab. And I don't mean to belabor the point, but again, a wide open goal. NextGen appears not to be following the play. That may prove to be decisive here. 3 of Ironside's goals have been unguarded, uncontested throws.
Really great play by Josh Marquette. Marquette, another one of those nice guys in the game. He's an athletic trainer, been involved in the Boston scene for quite a while now.
I played against him during my year on Ironside. He used to play for Atlanta's Chain Lightning, and I was unfortunate enough to have him be my matchup. So I've seen it from both sides, but he moved up here the year after to Boston the year after that season. From 2010 till now, he's been a mainstay on Boston's O-line.
So Malachek pulls. Kern's going to receive the pull and center to Montague. Vert stack from the bus. Forehand force from Ironside. Mickle shooting one deep again. Hahn running deep, floating nicely, and Allison Hall maybe should have laid out for this one. He tried to run it down. Both he and Hahn were there.
Looked like Allison Hall was waiting to see if his teammate was going to lay out, and then realized too late and had to just go for it with his left hand. Either one of them looked like they could have caught it if they had laid out for it.
So the bus with another turnover. Now Malachek picking up. Looking to reset. Resets to Neff. Neff marked by Mickle. Simmons beats his man up line. Simmons fakes the huck.
Good patience from Simmons there. The huck opportunity was open, but if he's not sure, you don't want him pulling the trigger.
Myers finds captain Russell Wallach. Wallach bends a forehand around to Will Neff. Looks like we had a call on the field just a few seconds before that happened. It did not affect the play, and the observers are going to rule that this one's going to be another break for Ironside.
I really like that throw from Captain Russell Wallach. Knifed it in there to Neff. And assuming the wind's not too big to affect that disc, Will's going to come down with that 99 times out of 100.
So the bus calls their first timeout of the first half, down a couple breaks. We're going to be back in just a minute after a commercial. Welcome back to McDonald Stadium in Boston. We just saw Ironside get their second break of the game. They take a 7-5 lead as Montague brings it down and flips one to Mickle. Mickle's got Driscoll deep, but decides to swing to Kearns. Kearns underneath to Driscoll.
I really like NextGen's spacing on this O-line.
Montague finds space downfield. Kearns. A lot of help from the handler defenders so far here from Ironside. Driscoll again.
Yeah, they're sort of sagging into the lane to take away those huck looks. And now they'll go a little bit more honest man because they're within striking distance of the end zone.
Jacob Janin streaking towards the front cone. And the observer is going to rule this one out of bounds. Janin maintained possession. And now Ironside immediately going the other way. Simmons picks up. Simmons, unfortunately, looking for Miles Montgomery Butler up line, turns it over.
Just off the fingertip there.
And now Montague finds Kearns.
Second chance here for NextGen's O-line. Let's see if they can take advantage.
Kearns looking for Montague. Montague, air bounce swing to Scion. Mitch Scion flips a backhand and a nice poach block from Russell Wallach, but Driscoll somehow hangs on to it.
Fantastic concentration there from Will Driscoll.
Driscoll missed Kearns on the doorstep. Now Kearns gets it. He's got a wide open Aaron Neal. And Wallach couldn't make up the ground on the backside. Some highlight plays on that one, Ryan, but NextGen's offense, after a couple turnovers by each team, holds to make it 7-6.
That was a really important point for NextGen. They took a few of their key players, notably Dylan Freechild, off for a point to save legs, and I think they're loading up this one to try to get the break before half.
And there you can see Dylan Freechild fired up after that point. He wants this one bad. He knows he's got a duel going with George Stubbs right now.
We just saw a quick camera shot. It looked like Will Driscoll on the sideline. We'll have to keep an eye on that, see if he's hobbling at all or just a bit winded from working hard on that play.
You can see him in the background. Looks like he's working around his ankles as we take a look at this next-gen D-line. That's Hahn, Freechild, Kocher, Clark, Erickson, Morrissey, and Dillon. And the Freechild Stubbs matchup has been something to watch so far in this game.
I think Freechild's done a great job on George playing defense. Had a nice tight mark, resulted in a couple turnovers from Stubbs. But one thing that both you and I, Mario, have noticed is George is really neutralizing Dillon on NextGen's offensive sets.
Here as Trent Dillon pushes Marquette almost all the way into the backfield on his cut. Now Cooper, trap mark by Erickson. Quick release backhand solves it. Now Rebholz gonna bomb his flick. Jay Clark sizing it up. But this is gonna be Alex Capinos going up over Clark. And I think Jay Clark thought he had an easy block, but Capinos reached in there, timed it perfectly, and came away with it to take half. Rebholz known more maybe for his backhand than his forehand. But Capinos this time steals a block.
Yeah, Clark definitely thought he had that one lined up. Capinos did a great job of attacking that disc, not waiting for it.
Nice play by Capinos. Ironside offense holds to bring them to halftime. We are 8-6 here in Boston. We will be back for the second half in just a few minutes. So welcome back to Boston, Massachusetts. Ironside is up 8-6 as we take a look at the Spirit of Aaron Bell, the NextGen bus. But the bus is down 2 right now as we see Coach McCarthy giving the final instructions before Ironside brings it out for the second half.
Yes, Mario, exciting first half. You look at the excitement and the passion and the focus of this team as they look at their coach, Josh McCarthy. I spoke with him earlier this week, and he was pretty keyed up about this game. The last couple of years, as I mentioned earlier, Ironside has gone down to this college all-star squad, and he really wants to win it. It's the only quote-unquote club team he hasn't beat. He's taken down the Revolvers of the world and the Chains, and this Ironside team has been really successful over the past few years under his leadership, and he wants this one.
So Coach talking a big game in the huddle, getting Ironside ready. On the other side, NextGen not playing a bad game so far. They're playing great D. Their offense is scoring how they want to score. But truly, the difference in this game so far has just been the fact that Ironside has just made more plays. I don't think that Ironside's offense or defense is playing that much better, but we see that D by Stubbs, and we see this layout by Josh Marquette. Sometimes games just come down to that. All things equal, it comes down to who makes plays, who comes up with that bobbled disc, who maybe gets a call, or who skies the defender like Alex Capinos did right there to bring you a goal. And we see those 3 big plays, that one by Stubbs, the grab by Marquette, and that grab by Capinos. And here the difference is 2 points. And we know that those points, the way these offenses are playing, could have gone easily the other way had those plays not been made.
Absolutely. I can remember one goal shot in each end zone for NextGen that the NextGen player had their hand on the disc and couldn't come down with it. When Ironside turns those 2 into goals, we could easily have the score be 8-6 the other way.
So as the train goes by in the background, NextGen rips their first pull of the second half. That's Rebholz picking up. And I made a mistake earlier in the first half. This is Jake Taylor with the disc underneath to Pryl. Now Capinos, marked by Mickle.
That's a matchup switch for NextGen on Capinos there.
Freechild marking Stubbs. Taylor swings to Rebholz.
Looks like we have a stoppage on the field.
Ironside now going back to their vertical set. Rebholz marked by Clark. Taylor
And I got to put in a plug for my boy, Matt Rebholz. He is a rock as an O-line handler. He could go entire tournaments without throwing turns. That's amazing coming from an O-line handler who's constantly getting tough matchups, tough marks.
Rebholz played at Wisconsin, played for Ironside these past 3 or 4 years. Now Capinos upfield again, marked by Mickle. Mickle trapping on the mark, forces a big loss of yards for Ironside. They switch the field to Marquette. Marquette marked by Kocher, finding Capinos again underneath.
Capinos doing work after a few throws of NextGen. Great D that they had won.
But Taylor this time is going to drift one out of bounds, Foster the intended receiver.
Fantastic effort there. Nobody's going to claim that these Ironside guys don't care about this game. We've seen some massive bids.
So Freechild picks up, finds Driscoll underneath. Driscoll looking for Clark in the lane. Nice cut by Clark. Mickle blows up line, now looking for Freechild. Morrissey, Freechild. Freechild, high hand against, Stubbs, high hand against Freechild.
Still gets that little flip shot off. They center the disc and call timeout.
And I like that timeout call by Kocher. Often, sometimes tough to manage the game without a coach. And a nice timeout call. This is the first time we've seen NextGen really sort of understand the importance of an offensive possession in a game like this, with how many big plays that Ironside is making, how stingy they can be with the disc. He knows that this is a big one for the bus.
Absolutely. Calling a timeout on the first point out of half can be a bit risky, but I like the call as well. They did a great job getting the disc in the middle of the field, so they open up some more options. Stall count resets to 0. We'll see what they do with the disc when it comes back in here, but it's important to keep in mind they only got one more timeout for the rest of the game now.
So keep an eye on the matchup between Freechild and Stubbs. Freechild has really been the generator of a lot of offense so far on the tour, but Freechild had Stubbs on him all game, really minimizing his impact. And that means someone else on this D-line for NextGen is going to need to step up and fill that role of catching passes, distributing, breaking the mark.
You know, Dylan's a fantastic player, but I rate George Stubbs as one of the best two-way players in the world, and he can lock guys down.
So a flood play from the bus, and Morrissey finds space underneath. Flips it upfield to Clark.
It's like a pick call in the stack.
So Morrissey looking for Freechild. Freechild burns Stubbs this time. Freechild really working for that upline cut. Now swings to Kocher, using the width of the field. Clark throws a low hammer. That one was intended for Driscoll, but the bus is going to get lucky here. Kocher all smiles to Morrissey, and the hip bump to his Colorado teammate Mickle. Jake Clark looking to go over the top because the mark on Driscoll had bit on the fake, but
he rushed that hammer look and forgot to step back and into his throw, but it worked out that time.
So a bit unlucky there from Ironside, but nevertheless, NextGen comes up with their first break of the game.
That's huge, especially coming out of half like that. Now you've got, looks like 6 of the 7 O-line players from Ironside back on the field after playing a long, hard D possession. Might be an opportunity for them to set up a deep look. They did take quite a few shots in the first half, and aside from a few George Stubbs misthrows, they were quite successful.
I want to say thank you for a moment to our sponsors at Elemental, providing you this crystal clear picture out of Portland, Oregon, the best in high-definition live streaming, Elemental Technologies. So Ironside brings it down, clears space for Stubbs underneath, marked by Freechild. Stubbs goes to that Blady forehand. Montague in the area, makes a bid, but Pryl brings it in. Stubbs now 2 of 4 on his hook looks. It's an easy decision to make when you've got the tall and speedy Pryl cutting deep.
Montague played pretty great D. Looks like a very similar throw to the first half when George Stubbs, and maybe a better read by Peter Pryl on this play.
And Simon Montague, a good player in the air, but I think most of the times Pryl's probably going to come down with that one against Montague.
Yeah, Peter just had a little bit better position on that play. He was able to get his body in the right spot, so Simon couldn't go up when he wanted to, and then just ride out the flight of the disc and catch it with two hands.
So Ironside's offense holds 9-7. Montague goes back to the O-line, surrounded by Kearns, Hahn, Jay Clark, Mickle, Morrissey, and Allison Hall. Kearns brings this one down to Montague. Montague marked by Simmons. Montague, high release backhand, flips to Morrissey. Kearns back to Morrissey.
Kearns really seems to like his off balance, off pivot type throws. Allows you to release when the defender's not expecting it.
Another high release from Montague to Hahn downfield. Hahn back to Montague. Montague, big gainer to Camden Allison Hall. Allison Hall finding Clark.
Again, really nice spacing to open up the field for NextGen. Anytime you can get 25-yard undercut against Ironside, you know you're doing something right on offense.
And that's something that the bus hasn't been able to do, is gain big yards underneath on the open side so far on the tour. And this time, Montague's going to break to Mickle.
I say keep feeding Montague. He's playing a great point.
Mickle looks off Montague. Hahn comes into the backfield. And Hahn flips back to Mickle. Lots of break space. Nice job by Aaron Hahn to just get it right back to Mickle. Mickle's a really dangerous thrower. He's so long. He's got great break throws. And a well-timed break here from Colorado teammate Tim Morrissey for another O-line hold for the bus.
Nice looking O-point from NextGen. You got their some wheels back on the field. See if they can put some pressure on Ironside, who was able to connect on a deep shot, their last O-point.
The NextGen D-line, Scion, Erickson, Kocher, Neal, Freechild, Driscoll, and Dillon. Driscoll, Dillon, and Erickson have really been the rocks of this D-line. Freechild seeing action, as well as Kocher on both sides of the disc.
I'm calling a Stubbs away cut on this point. It's a huck from, who's picking up the disc? Matt Rebholz. I just have a feeling. Freechild's been forcing him under a lot and doing a great job with it, but we do have a bit of breeze moving from left to right.
So Taylor's going to pick this one up. Bit of a split stack look with the spread. Pryl's just going to clear out. Nice poach from Kocher, forcing that disc to go to the sideline. Now Rebholz with it. Rebholz finds Alex Capinos. Capinos has gained tons of yards here tonight on those undercuts, but this time miscommunication going to lead to a turnover, and Capinos makes a bid. Neal unmarked.
Can't take advantage of that unmarked situation, but he takes a high percentage throw.
And Stubbs puts that hand up and forces a tough one. Nice job by Trent Dillon to get it to Freechild, and Freechild's going to put it to space. This one's easy. Elliot Erickson reels it in. Great job by Dylan Freechild to find that space. And the bus gets their second break of the second half. Beautiful throw here from Freechild. And you can really see how NextGen relies on Freechild to make the difficult throws when he needs to. He broke that one over the top. Stubbs had his hand up. Maybe not exactly where Freechild wanted it, But nice job by the bus, especially nice job by Trent Dillon, just getting it and flipping it upfield to Freechild that put Freechild in that position.
That power position is a really great throw. You notice that because he was unmarked, Dillon was able to step forward into that throw, be on balance, and just float it out into space. Beautiful looking throw. See some smiles from the NextGen guys on the line. They're excited about the start of the second half. 2 breaks to tie up the game.
2 breaks and now a huge pull by Mickle, blading near the middle of the end zone. This is going to be Cooper, marked by Jannon. Cooper finds Pryle, and Stubbs runs deep now, but Cricket comes underneath to relieve the pressure. Now Stubbs. Taylor finds Foster underneath. Haven't called his name a lot tonight. Another Hodag. Now Pryle. Throws the around to Rebholz. Now Cooper all the way around to Josh Marquette. And Freechild might have had a bid on that one. I'm actually very surprised that we didn't see Freechild leave his feet. He read the play.
I think he thought he was there and the throw wasn't going to come off. Cricket threw it anyway, snuck it past him.
I'm going to take a look at the replay here. You're going to see nice job swinging all the way around. Cooper to Marquette. And Freechild hesitated just enough to not bid.
I think he wants that one back, Mario. As we see Coach McCarthy talking to his troops out on the D-line here for Boston. It's the first D-line point recently in this half. Let's see if Boston can come back and get their first break of the second half.
So Will Neff pulling for Ironside.
We've been seeing some big outside-in pulls with this wind.
This one a bit more of a blade, going to hit the ground. Kearns fielding. And Montague gets some free yards.
Great catch in center there. An often overlooked part of the game.
Hahn immediately back to Montague. Wallach poaches off of Hahn. Hahn gets it back to Montague. Scion finds tons of space underneath. And that's a matchup that you can look to gain lots of yards with against Malachek. But this time Scion looks over the top to Allison Hall. A little off the mark from Scion. And now Muffin's going to pick up.
I don't think Allison Hall was pleased that his teammate put that one up.
And Muffin's going to jack this one deep. This is Hahn against Will Neff. 2 Giants, and Hahn's going to get the better of Neff.
Well read by Hahn.
20-year-old Aaron Hahn comes away with the block.
We saw that Muffin to Neff connection on a deep shot in the first half, but this time Ironside's D-line wasn't able to connect. Second chance for NextGen O.
Stack a bit deep again here for the bus. And a miscommunication between Kearns and Montague is going to lead to a break for Russell Wallach from Alex Simmons. Great pressure D by Simmons, forcing the miscommunication. And that's exactly what you're looking for, playing that type of handler defense. A lot of times, you're not necessarily going to make a block a lot of the time, but if you can get the offensive players to miscommunicate with each other, if you can get one of the cutters to stutter step and maybe the thrower to release it, you're going to get a chance at a block. And here we see exactly that with Simmons finding Russell Wallach on the break.
Really nice pressure D. Anytime you can, as a dump defender, put the cutter in a position where the thrower doesn't know exactly what they're doing, you've done your job. It doesn't always result in a D, as you said, Mario, but in this case, it did.
So clutch D play from Ironside gives them a bit of a cushion here.
They have, pardon the pun, righted the ship, it appears, here in the second half. Back up by 2. And a huge pull by Neff.
Morrissey Looks to Montague. Miles Montgomery Butler poaching the lane off of Morrissey. Now Morrissey flips upfield to Driscoll. Driscoll finds Mickle underneath. Big gainer, and Mickle's going to rip one deep. Allison Hall is wide open, and Jimmy Mickle hits again.
Really nice cut. Open by 7 yards downfield.
And we're going to take a look at that replay again, hopefully. You can see Will Neff pointing to the observer that was actually a travel because Mickle had caught the disc and then set his pivot and slid out of bounds. But our rules here today, under the way we're playing on the entire NextGen Tour, the observers are actually calling active travels, which means that the players aren't calling the travels. I'm sure that Neff wanted to call the travel there and actually pointed to the observer that it should have been a travel after the play. No dice for Neff, goal for Mickle.
It's interesting because about half of this Ironside roster is playing on the Boston MLU team, the Whitecaps. And in the MLU, as many of our viewers know, that travel is an active call as well. So this is the first time in a while that Neff thought he could make that travel call, and yet it was not to be.
So Taylor works it up to Cooper. Capinos going to rip one deep, but Dylan Freechild and George Stubbs are there. Freechild.
And there's Stubbs pointing to the sky. He wanted him to float it a bit. He thinks he can win that matchup in the air. Freechild had position. Very well defended.
And so we have seen, as you mentioned, Ryan, we've seen Stubbs streaking deep a couple times this half. But Freechild gets the best of him this time. That Freechild-Stubbs matchup has been tight all game long.
Been really fun to watch. Both of those guys are savvy enough cutters that they're cutting sequences. They're building off of previous cuts throughout the game, setting up under for late game deep shots and vice versa.
Nice throw to space here by Montague, and Montague is going to loft this one up in the air. Uh-oh,
Looks like
Kocher looks to be injured. Will Neff goes up, and Kocher in a lot of pain.
That looked like
Can't tell if this one's a cramp. But as soon as this one up, Kocher came up limp.
He pulled up well outside the end zone and continued hobbling towards the disc gamely, but wasn't able to go up because of that hamstring.
And you can see that Marquette's in there, an athletic trainer, talking with Kocher. That was Quella, Jamie Quella, number 16 with the Ironside block.
As we see these next-gen players looking on, sure they're concerned for their teammate and also concerned with a thin roster of only 15 players. Every guy that goes down really has an impact on the depth of your squad and the legs you have for late-game situations. We noticed Stubbs talking to Capinos, probably just making sure Alex is clear on what he's looking for on that deep cut we saw earlier. Capinos tried to give him the laser instead of the high floaty.
Yeah, and I think Capinos, having the type of game that he's having, he's made a lot of plays today, and a lot of times when you feel like you're hot, you're just going to let it go no matter what. And you're going to try to maybe put a little more muscle into it rather than some touch. And a nice job there by Stubbs to, like you said, bring him in, let him know exactly what he's looking for. And that's going to pay dividends later in the season when those guys have built some chemistry, winning those games late Sunday at Nationals.
And even looking forward to sooner than that, we're talking this weekend at the U.S. Open. I know most of these Boston guys are flying out tomorrow. Pretty excited about the tournament down in Raleigh. Get to match up against top U.S. and international competition. As we hear a round of applause for the injured player being helped off the field. Certainly hope he's all right. It's great to see that Josh Marquette is able to lend a hand with his expertise. One of the great things about our community. Even competitors are willing to help one another when situations like this happen.
I want to say thank you to our observer crew tonight. Doing an excellent job, as we mentioned. Some slightly different rules than they might be playing in under the USAU. Steve Wong, Skippy Siegel, Jonathan Levy, Sam Henderson out there in green today. So Ironside, after turning a deep throw, Freechild with the block, are going to get another chance to convert with their O-line. Rebholz taps the disc, play resumes. This will be Taylor to pick up. Take a look downfield at a vert stack from Ironside. Interesting thing about their vert stack, they run their dump set from the front of the stack with no handler in the backfield.
One of the only teams you'll see doing that. They feel like it puts them in more threatening dump positions. So they don't want to have somebody behind the disc.
Rebholz, marked by Morrissey, laser beam to the back of the end zone. Marquette and Pryl giving chase. This one's going to be too far. So 2 missed huck opportunities for Ironside.
You don't see that too often out of this squad that's known for their consistency. But then again, it is early in the season. This is definitely the most intense game that Ironside has played in about 8 months. I guess we can give him a pass. What do you think, Mario?
Well, if McCarthy wants to win this one, I wouldn't be giving him a pass right now. So Dylan bends one around to Freechild. Freechild looks back to Dylan. Neal covered by Pryl, gets looked off. Now Clark. Clark finds Scion. Scion marked by Taylor. Freechild burns up line past Stubbs again. Resets to Montague. Nice big swing from Montague to Trent Dillon. Trent Dillon's going to rip this IO. Great matchup in the end zone. It's Freechild against Stubbs. And Freechild is going to call a foul here on Stubbs. And Freechild's going to say that Stubbs prevented him from getting to the disc. Some contact there, but Stubbs is obviously going to talk to Freechild and say he actually had the better position in the first place. And although there was contact,
from the review, it looked like George continued his path in a straight line. Dylan, when he recognized that he was getting caught under the disc, then was trying to correct, and there was contact.
And this is a really tough call to make, even for players sorting this out. If I'm Freechild, I'm saying I couldn't make a play on the disc because there was contact. And if I'm Stubbs, I'm saying I was in better position anyway. He tried to go through me to get to where I was already in the best position. I think that the observers are going to rule that this one is not a foul, and I actually think that that's the right call. I don't fault Freechild for making the call, but I think this is the right ruling by the observers. So Marquette flips one up to Capinos, again underneath. Pryl looking at Stubbs, this time looks him off, and Stubbs finds lots of space underneath against Freechild.
Freechild's pretty fired up, and working
Stubbs,
hard on D.
Stubbs,
Beautiful
crossfield hammer to Marquette, and Marquette flips it to Pryl for a goal. Brilliant point there by Stubbs to
really
make that
point.
One happen.
Looking downfield, just watching the cutting, you can tell that Dylan was pretty fired up after that observer overrule on the foul call. But George showed a lot of composure, coming under, fighting through a little bit of an arm bar, throwing the crossfield hammer, opening up the goal.
So after a string of Freechild victories in that matchup, Stubbs gets the best of Freechild in the air, catches the under, and really creates the goal for Ironside. And now they're up 12-10 as we move late into the game. Maybe that's the end of the third quarter, and it's crunch time. That's Russell Wallach, number 33.
Recently elected Ironside captain for the first time, along with Matt Rebholz and George Stubbs.
Montague, and that's the third time we've seen that flood play work. Now Jannon, downfield to Mickle.
Interesting matchup here with Muffin guarding Jimmy Mickle.
And if you're Jimmy Mickle, you need to just go ahead and abuse that and go catch it every other. Muffin loves to poach, and Simon Montague loves to throw that backhand. Now Driscoll underneath. NextGen moving easily down the field.
I know as a D-line player myself, it takes a lot of effort as you're fatigued to switch gears and be making offensive, solid decisions rather than just bringing that aggression and that energy during a D-point.
A lot of people talk about the hardest role, the hardest position to play in Ultimate, and they talk about that D-line handler position because of the mental switch that you do have to make, like you said, Ryan, and it's really true. Got to maintain composure and at the same time lead your team towards a break. Here we see Wallach underneath, marked by Mickle. Wallach's going to rip one deep. Montague in the area. Montague makes a bid, but Adrian Banerjee comes away with this one, and now Banerjee is going to break around the mark. And Banerjee throws his hands in the air because that's the third break of the half for Ironside. And this is going to be a tough comeback for the Bus if they want to win here in Boston.
We've seen quite a few of those Ironside Hucks blading over the top of the defender. It's resulted in a few Ds for NextGen, but also a lot of completions on the doorstep and easy goals to follow.
That was Misha Sidorsky with the reception. This Ironside roster with not very much turnover from last year, only had to fill a couple of roster spots. And like you mentioned before, Ryan, that O-line is almost completely intact from last year. And on that D-line, those guys, Banerjee, Sidorsky, Neff, Simmons, they played a ton of points together the last couple of years. You got to think that Ironside, with some of the turnover that we've seen from some of the other rosters, is poised to go deep, if not win, every tournament that they play in this year.
Well, that's certainly their goal. And I'd say they are quietly confident about their prospects this season. They're a program that's going to contend every year. Obviously, there's been a lot of turnover in the club scene in the U.S. this year, and maybe less so for a team like Boston. So I think they feel pretty good about their chances. They're excited to take part in the Triple Crown Tour and just experience the new setup for the club season.
Kern's going to take a chance here deep to Hahn. Not enough IO bite on that one from Kearns. And that's not a normal decision from Eli Kearns. He's usually a little more conservative in terms of how difficult his throw choices are. That was a really tight window that he had to hit and a difficult throw.
Little different situation, but Dylan's throw earlier was that IO backhand into space as well, which the window is not huge.
And a great play by Aaron Neal basically saves a goal. Will Neff unmarked going deep. Muffin tried to fire one deep, but Neal got into the lane and saved it.
Really savvy play by Neal there.
And Neal's going to get the goal and a spike for the Kiwi.
Big play. Really big play. It's not a huge layout D. It's smart, though. We've seen several instances where Muffin's picked up the disc after a turn and looked to bomb it to Neff.
You're going to see Malachek winds up, and it's a good thing because Neal wasn't on anyone at that point. Nice job Kearns working with Mickle, high in the stall count. Mickle takes that one and flips to Aaron Neal, trying to get his team pumped up as Kevin Minderhout here in the stands trying to get the fans pumped up.
The bus loading up this D-line. They're going to need 3 breaks to win this game. They got to have it now.
Left to right, Dillon, Erickson, Driscoll, Scion, Jannon, Montague. Dillon Freechild to pull. Taylor to Rebholz. No one in the middle of the field for Ironside. Stubbs takes off deep with Pryl underneath. And Pryl with Stubbs isolated against Freechild. Takes yards. Cricket running deep. Stubbs is going to put it up there, but Trent Dillon is there, but Cricket brings it down for another goal. Trent Dillon not happy with himself. Great play by Cricket. And Stubbs, a blade forehand that's going to work out.
There was a little poach in the lane there that forced Stubbs to throw that higher than he wanted, I think. So it hung a bit. Dillon not happy.
So Ironside will have their first opportunity at game point. Neff to pull, standing next to Wallach.
Likely their only opportunity as a D-line to finish this game. I know as a D-line player myself, I always relish these points because you knew you're going to go out there, put everything on the line, and then you got to take the boots off and watch the O-line close it out after.
So as the train goes by, Neff rips a bladey backhand. And I think we're going to see that flood play again here. And it works again 4 times so far for the bus. And Clark's going to rip one deep. He's got Mickle streaking, and this one is out of reach. So a misfire by Clark to a wide open Mickle. And Ironside's got a chance to close this one out.
Just that half step of fatigue on the cuts, a little bit on the decision making, the execution on the throw. Thin roster. I tip my cap to these NextGen guys. They're laying it all out on the line for these fans.
Simmons working with Montgomery Butler. Now underneath to Neff. Neff looks off a big throw, chooses to go underneath to McNaughton. Now McNaughton flips to Neff. And Wallach not able to come up with a low throw from Will Neff. Bit of confusion on the field as NextGen resets their offense. Montague comes and gets it. Tight pressure from Simmons.
Simmons'
Mickle.
energy as a D-line defender is really impressive. Neal with his 2nd goal in a row for NextGen. I was just commenting on Alex Simmons. He's the only guy that I saw out there on that 2nd D possession for Ironside that still had legs to pursue, get a mark on right away, and work quite hard on this mark.
Of course, Simmons, coached by Hector Valdivia at Wisconsin, and Wisconsin known for turning out great athletes who can play at the highest level. You're talking about guys like Dan Heyman, Simmons, Malachek here for Ironside.
Rebholz, Jim Foster. A lot of Hodag representation on the field here tonight. Might be the first year for NextGen not to have a Wisconsin player. I'm not a historian for NextGen, but I'm guessing that they've had a Wisconsin Hodag on the roster every year previous.
Of course, Colin Camp, NextGen 1.0 a couple years ago. Played with them.
Did Simmons play NextGen?
Simmons was not a NextGen player this past year, although I think many, after his senior season with the Hodags, put in a case for him. Ironside with their first O point to try to close it out. Taylor looks off an open cut on the sideline, and Capinos
And after making a couple big plays, Capinos has made a few careless errors here in the second half. A throwaway, that huck we talked about, and then there, just a stone-cold drop.
Freechild flips one high over the top to Trent Dillon. Dillon back to Freechild. And Trent Dillon burns his man up line, and nice job by Trent Dillon flipping it to Scion. Trent Dillon a little too much to handle for the athletic Josh Marquette on that one.
He did the old stutter step on that upline cut, just froze him for a half second and got the separation he needed.
So, an unforced error by Ironside's Capinos leads to another break for the bus, 14-13. So the D-line for Ironside may have been thinking, our O-line's got this one, I'm going to take off my boots. Not so fast, says NextGen.
I said they needed 3 breaks to win. They got their first, making things a little bit interesting for the crowd on hand here in Boston this evening. Wanted to comment on Trent Dillon. Really like his game. I think he's one of the younger NextGen players. But you can tell, not only is he an explosive athlete, but he's got really smooth throws. You can tell he's someone who's been playing the game for a long time, understands his role within the team, willing to do the little things. A lot of flippy backhands, because that's what's there.
Trent Dillon actually has been playing Ultimate probably as long as any NextGen player. His father actually played Club Ultimate, so he's come up in an Ultimate family. And Trent Dillon, of course, 2 national championships with Pittsburgh.
For a young guy, he's played in some big games.
So Kearns will mark Taylor, and you can see it, a deep vertical stack with no one in the backfield. Rebholz front of the stack, and Marquette now beats Janin. Stubbs beats Freechild underneath. Swings to Taylor. Taylor all the way around to Marquette. Marquette marked by Janin. Nice inside throw from Marquette to Rebholz. Rebholz on the doorstep of the victory. Flips back to Taylor. Tight D from the bus. Oh, no.
Massive bid by Trent Dillon on the D there, but Peter Pryl able to come up with it, catching the game winner.
And the mark falls down at a critical time. Nice faking there by Taylor. And Dillon not able to come away with this one. The speedy Pryl takes home the game for Ironside. And what a game. Highlights all over the place. Great matchups. What was the difference here for Ironside?
It wasn't much, I'll tell you that. Close game. NextGen fought back with some breaks early in the second half. Ironside showed some of that veteran savvy, able to recover, get those breaks back. And then at the end of the game, I think the difference is the depth. More players on the roster, a little bit more legs. Didn't have a game last night, being Boston. That could be that small difference. I mean, we're talking inches, we're talking percent.
Yeah, and we're talking one missed play, one turnover, or 2, and it makes a huge difference. We look back at this game, we think about the opportunities that NextGen had. If I remember, Allison Hall, a disc that he could have maybe laid out for in the end zone. A miscommunication between NextGen, between Scion and Allison Hall. And then you have Ironside, who made the big plays for most of the game, and I think they just made a couple more plays than NextGen tonight. And when 2 great teams face off, it often comes down to that. Sometimes it's luck, sometimes it's skill, but sometimes it's just big boys making big plays. And it's Ironside's victory tonight, 15-13. Be sure to join us on Thursday evening as the bus drives to Toronto. Ryan, thanks for joining us here tonight.
Only a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, Mario.
And thank you to our crew members. Thank you to our observers. Thank you to our sponsors, Elemental Technologies and FrictionGloves.com. We'll see you on Thursday night.